Hey guys, welcome back. We are on our final week of the identity series of who God says we are, and I have my beautiful friend Mercedes here with me to talk about being enough and victorious and what that means for us when we get to walk and what it looks like when we actually walk in that identity of who God says we are. So yeah, this is Mercedes. If you want to share a
Hi.
little bit about yourself, that would be great.
Well, I'm a daughter of the king and a mom and an investigator.
Yeah.
I have four boys.
She's got the boys and I got the girls, so
We're like Brady Bunch.
yeah, exactly. Well, I grew up with four boys
You
and I
did?
was right in the middle,
Oh,
and they used to torment me. But
you had all the rough and tumble,
yes,
and they used you
oh yeah, man,
to torment, I'm sure.
I used to save all my money, and like my mom tells a story about how we went camping and we were all back in the RV in the travel trailer. It's illegal, but we were in the travel trailer. And
Same.
this was a long time ago. And my mom opened the door one time and stopped, and I came storming off that travel trailer, and I was screaming, "I'm adopting a sister! I hate having it," because they just would. I was right in the middle of boys. So, and then God, I used to pray for a sister, and God gave me five girls. So it's been
So
quite the journey.
that's amazing.
Yeah,
I love how God works like that.
I know. And like we both have like different ages, like adult kids and then minor kids. And so that's
Yeah.
a journey in itself, like juggling the different ages.
It's very different raising kids that are, I guess, different eras, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, because
that's true.
25 and then
Hmm.
14 and 11.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
completely different parenting too.
Oh, yeah. Because what they're facing is different.
Exactly.
What we had to walk through with the older girls when they were younger is completely different than what we have to, even the things you have to be aware of, the things you have to watch out for, all of that is different now.
Yeah. My boys didn't have social media.
Yeah.
They didn't even have cell phones until they were in high school. And,
Yeah.
they didn't have access to the internet
Hmm.
at that point.
Yeah. It's so crazy to think about that. I know that now kids at like the age of, under 10 or they have cell phones, and I keep telling my girls, my little ones, you are not getting one anytime soon. I'm not taking away your childhood. Like, no
Exactly.
phones. But they still have their iPads, like when I need to work or something. And I'm like, go ahead, go play some games for like an hour while I work. Cause
Yeah.
it's the only way to, 'cause I'm still homeschooling them. So, it's,
Same.
yeah,
But I don't know about you, but as they've gotten older, there's a lot more freedom. They
yeah,
are a lot more independent.
yeah,
They don't need us sitting right there with them the whole time, which
yeah,
is nice.
which is really nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you so much for being here. I'm really,
Yeah,
really excited.
absolutely.
And when I was telling you earlier, like, when I was thinking about this series, that, like, you were reminded of this conversation that we had, and just the wisdom that you used to give me, like when we would talk about ministry and just talk about different things, like in a time before this even came to pass, and like, God was even calling us to ministry.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh yeah, she would be
Well, thank you.
perfect. Yeah, thank
I
you.
appreciate it. Yeah, lots of wisdom, lots of learning over the
I
years.
know.
Lots
Sometimes we gotta go through hard things, but we get the good wisdom.
exactly.
Yeah. So today we're gonna talk about just, the feelings of being enough and victorious. And it was gonna be two different episodes, but you just gave such a great insight onto how one kind of equates to the other and just combining the two in one, which I think you said that so beautifully. So thank you for that. And
Yeah.
just the wisdom I could tell that you had to share, even in that message to me, I was like, oh, this is gonna be good.
Yeah, definitely can't be victorious without feeling like you're
Enough.
enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved how you put that. But so in your life, how has this part of your identity been something that you've struggled with or had to like grow into?
That's a great question. You know, um, I think from a very young age, I didn't feel like enough. My parents
Mhm.
got divorced when I was 3. And subconsciously, I feel like I was always trying to do,
Mm,
to feel approved, to feel sufficient, to feel loved, to feel adequate. And I just didn't. I didn't feel that way. So doing became how I felt like enough. So, when I had the twins 11 years ago, um, I decided to stay home with them. That wasn't my initial thought. My initial thought was I want to go back to work because I felt like enough. I got those atta girls
Mhm.
from
Validation.
working. Yeah, the validation. And I wasn't going to get that at home, changing. No one's going to say, thank you for changing my diapers.
Exactly.
Thank you for
Not
preparing
sleeping.
my snack.
Yeah.
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 So I think that, on this journey of recognizing that we are enough in Christ because his love and grace is sufficient,
Yeah.
it's really a journey because you'll recognize one thing and then, the Lord works on us in that area. I mean, the Bible says we go from glory to glory.
Yeah.
So I think it initially started when I was young, and then God has just opened my eyes in so many ways of how I didn't feel like enough, or I didn't feel adequate, or I didn't feel worthy.
Mm.
So, yeah,
It's been such a like a consistent thing that I've been seeing and like hearing as we've gone through these series so far is like the love that we felt from other people was so conditional. And that's been like such a running thing that's been brought up in almost every episode,
yeah,
that we struggled with things of believing who we are because of someone's conditional love for us. That we only felt that love if we met certain things and did certain things and behaved a certain way. And, like if you would have just done this differently, or if and, and to me, that's like, that's so sad because then that becomes like our idea of what love feels like, and then even in our relationship with God, like I have to be a certain way for him to love me.
yeah.
And that's not the truth.
When you think about, we're parents,
Mhm.
and then you think about being a child, as an adult and as a parent, I can look at the situation now and say, you know, those things had nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
But even as a parent, I think about raising my boys and the expectations that I have on them.
Mhm.
And gosh, I hope they don't feel like my love is conditional. But that's such a great point, because I don't think as parents that's our intentions.
No.
Our intentions is to love, guide, teach, direct, redirect.
Mhm.
Um,
But we love him anyways.
yeah,
But do they feel that?
that's a great question. I think I'll go home and ask
I
them.
know, I was just thinking that too, because it's been such a thing that's been brought up as like when we've talked about like our brokenness and just like the false identities that we've kind of like held on ourselves. A lot of it had to do with conditions that other people set on us. And then so even talking through it with you now, I'm like, man, like I don't want my children to ever grow up and say like my mom only loved me when.
Yeah,
I mean, we try to love them no matter what, and despise all the things. And I tell them that all the time, like, no matter what you do, I'm still gonna love you. Like, no matter what. Is there times I'm gonna be disappointed? If you go and do something crazy, like of course you're gonna be like
yeah.
disappointed, but I'm still gonna love you exactly the same because that's God's love for us. Like there's nothing that we can do.
Well, I think though, I mean, I don't know about you. I've heard that when we become adults, we look at God based on how we were parented,
Yeah.
and we identify our relationship with God based off of our relationship with our mother or our
Yeah.
father or whoever raised us.
Yeah.
And so, that takes a lot of unraveling
Yeah. And some of
as
it
a,
has to be undone because we learned really bad qualities of what love looks like untruths of God's love based on our parents.
yeah, I agree.
So there's a lot of undoing
Yeah, it
there.
really is.
Yeah.
It's definitely a journey and not a destination. You don't open up a Bible or a self-help book or go to a counselor and then all
Yeah.
of a sudden it's miraculously better.
Yeah.
It definitely takes,
It's a lifelong
time.
journey. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because there'll be something else that's going to come in and it's going to question
exactly.
your identity or try to shape it or get you to doubt it or something anyway. So it's like a continual journey for sure.
Yeah. I
Mm.
think the beginning of it is really, having the self-awareness to recognize that you don't feel like
Mhm.
enough.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the hardest part and the biggest wall in our relationship with the Lord.
Mhm. Yeah, because I think we feel like he doesn't know that we're feeling that way. Like, we think we can hide the fact that we're feeling certain ways from him when we can't hide anything
It's
from
like
him.
that little kid that's playing hide and go seek, but's really peeking around the corner to see if you're coming and you can
Yeah.
see him.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's how it is with God. Like, we think, like, "Oh, he doesn't know that I'm feeling this way today," but, like, yeah, he knows. So you might as well bring it to him anyways and ask him to help you because he already knows,
Yeah.
and he wants us to bring it to him. But if we learn differently in childhood that we can't bring things to people, then we're gonna view that
S-
as yeah,
Yeah, that's
uh,
so true.
yeah,
Yeah, if you had unsafe people growing up,
mhm,
you know, then unsafe people feel normal
mhm,
and you stay in that environment
yeah,
versus doing the work. I mean, it takes work, it takes effort.
yeah, yeah,
you can't just go, okay, I know I have abandonment issues.
yeah,
Okay, now God fix
yeah,
everything,
he
you
wants
know?
to see us do the work, yeah,
Yeah.
'cause we gotta be willing to wanna change,
Yeah.
and that's why I think it even talks about, like, seeking wise counsel. People think it's, like, so foreign, but, hey, I have a therapist, and I love her, and I'm so thankful for her, but, we all walk through things, and
Yeah.
we need to have people who continue to pour into us so we can pour from our full cup.
Well, and having a different perspective, is
Yeah,
really, really important.
yeah,
I'm sure many people have seen that social media post with the two people staring down at the ground, and it's a 6 or a 9 based on,
yeah,
at what position you're standing in.
yeah,
And I think having someone to have that dialogue with
yeah,
that you can say, "Hey, I'm feeling this way. Is this reality? Am I delusional in this thought process?" I think that's really healthy. And I
yeah,
think that, many people feel like, "Oh gosh, I don't want to go tell somebody how I
yeah,
feel," because it can be scary,
yeah,
to open yourself up
but
to
perspective
someone.
is really everything, though.
It really is.
You can switch something completely with a change of perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really great. Were there, like, certain lies that you believed, and was there a moment that kind of, like, started to become real for you where you realized, like, "Okay, I have these false labels on me that I'm believing, and it's causing me to walk differently or live differently?"
I'm sure there have been plenty of times that I have had those moments where I recognized, um, that I wasn't feeling like I was enough, I
Mm.
wasn't feeling adequate in the moment. Um, Something that stands out is, parenting.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't feel like I had the skill set or the ability to be a good mom. And so, I've really had to press in and talk to people that I trusted and that I saw as healthy parents.
Mhm.
Um, and we talked about this already. Raising my older son and my stepson when I was married, that parenting looks totally different than the parenting the things I do now with my younger kids. It's such a shift. Whereas, I mean, I wouldn't have called myself a helicopter parent,
Mhm.
but I definitely felt the need to be a little bit more controlling versus giving my kids the freedom to make the choices and then have to suffer the consequences of those choices.
Yeah.
Um, and so, I was just parenting based off of what I knew growing up. But I definitely had this thought process like, I'm not capable in this area. I am not
Mhm.
enough. And thankfully, the 25-year-old, he's turned out amazingly, but it hasn't been me. It's
Mhm.
definitely been the grace of God and a lot of pointing him back to Jesus,
Mhm.
and being willing to be honest
Yeah.
with him that I'm human and I'm going to make mistakes and that he's human and he's going to make mistakes. But when you can rely on Jesus and when you can
Yeah.
be honest with yourself and others about who you are and what you've done, that's a powerful place to be.
Yeah. Mm. That's really good. Do you have, like, a personal, like, testimony or encounter or, like, a situation, like, marked that moment for you where you're like, "Okay, I really realize, like, who I am." Like, where God specifically told you, like, "I want you to let go of these labels," and where he implanted, like, the truth of who you are into your heart.
It's definitely been a journey, but there are some significant times that in my life where, I've had God redirect me.
Yeah.
And it may not have been, like, yes, I love you, but it was things that he said that really shifted my thought process of who he was. And it wasn't until my thought process of who he was as and is as my father that when that shifted, that's when I started to recognize I don't feel lovable. I don't feel like enough. I don't feel good about myself. And I vividly remember the moment my older son was in the kitchen and I asked him to take out the trash.
Mm,
And he said, I don't want to take out the trash. And so my response back to him was, well, I didn't ask you if you wanted to.
mm,
I asked you to do it. And clear as day, I mean, obviously not an audible voice, but the Lord was so clear with me. And he said, that's how you respond to me when I ask you to do things. And I thought, wow. And yet you continue to bless me and love me and, open doors for me. And in that moment, there was just such a huge shift in my thought process of who he was as a father. Yeah.
mm. And we don't know that, then it's hard to understand it, you know?
Yeah. If you don't see him as
A good father.
a good father
Yeah,
that loves us just as we are
yeah,
before we ever decide to
yeah,
obey.
I know. I always say that, like, it's crazy to think how he loved us before we ever loved him, because we wouldn't do that. We have a hard time loving people even when they do love us, but
Yeah.
he loved us before we ever loved him, and for me, like, I was running away from him,
Oh,
and
100%.
he just continued to pursue me, and I was like, "No, no, no, I got this, God, like, I don't really need you." And
Yeah.
he just never stopped pursuing me, but out of his, like, crazy love for us. And he already knew we were gonna let him down after, like, he already knows that, but he still loves us anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. I think about all the running that I've done.
Yeah.
And I think it was just because I didn't want to get honest with
Mhm.
myself and others, and I didn't want to expose what was really in my heart, which
Yeah.
was a lot of anger, bitterness, resentment. And to be honest, I didn't like myself.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until God revealed to me who I was to Him
Mhm.
that I actually really felt like enough. I
Yeah.
am enough. You know, like I don't need to have things or I don't need to have position.
Yeah.
Just who I am sitting here right now is enough.
Mhm.
And, I don't worry about what people think of me.
Yeah.
I really truly can say that, I may be sad or disappointed that, someone thinks negatively of me, but I can honestly say, well, that's between them and God.
Yeah.
That's not my problem.
Yeah.
And that's such a great place to be. We talk about freedom,
Yeah.
living in this country where we have freedom. I didn't have that for so
Mhm.
many years. And I mean, I was on a journey
Mhm.
of getting there,
Mhm.
but it was a process. And it's such a powerful place to be when you can still know that you have these little things in your life, thoughts, thought processes, stories in your head, but you can recognize that it doesn't matter
Yeah.
because you're who God needs you to be in this very moment,
Yeah.
mess and all.
Mhm. That's
Yeah.
good. And I think that that's part of the problem is that we don't see ourselves as enough because we are, and I know we talked about this a lot, but like we're comparing ourselves to standards that aren't even God's standards to begin with.
Yeah.
And that's where I think we get stuck. And I know I feel like I sound like a broken record, like saying that, but like we really are, like, we hear an identity that's spoken up over us, or we believe something that someone says, or a lie that the enemy has told us, and then that becomes our identity, and we function off of that, and then we don't walk in our truth. Like you were saying how, like, you have to feel like you're enough to walk in victory. If
Yeah.
you don't and you're believing that you're defeated and not enough, then when a situation happens, you're like, "Oh, it's just because I deserve this," or "It's just because I'm not good enough," or "It's just because they don't like me," or "I'm not," like for my one of my daughters, she's says she's a lot, she's just hyper and very energetic and like, and I love that about her, but she'll say like, "Well, people don't like me because 'cause I'm a lot." So it's gonna take like certain friendships because I'm a lot. you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, but who told you that you were a lot? And why is that how you function and you live your life? And so when you approach people like, oh, I have to tone it down because they might think I'm a lot.
Yeah.
But like, that's who God created you to be. And if they don't like it and you're too much for them, that's between them and God. But like, who you are is who you are. And you need to know that like, it is enough.
Yeah.
Your enoughness and all is enough. Or not your enoughness, your, her, too muchness is enough for what she
Yeah.
thinks, you know?
That sounds like a self-fulfilling prophecy almost, where, it's interesting. I don't know if you've ever like delved into psychology, but I love psychology, most of it.
Hmm.
And I love the Bible.
Yeah.
And I read things in the Bible and I'm like, this mirrors
Yeah.
psychology. And one of the things that both the Bible and psychology talks about is that self-fulfilling prophecy, where it's like, if you feel like you're awkward
Hmm.
and you feel not enough or you feel too much and you go into a social situation feeling that way or that you're going to be that way, you're probably going to make it awkward for yourself and
Yeah.
everybody else
Yeah.
just based off of your thought process. So it really does tie back to your thought process, you know, and really being willing to look at the word of God and see who God says you are.
Yeah. And just really try to like instill that over yourself and remind yourself of that.
Yeah.
I think it's like a daily thing that you have to remind yourself of.
I remember when I started this journey reading things that I had written out about who I am as a child of God. And I remember it feeling so awkward, and so unnatural. And even thinking sometimes, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
It's
it's
true for
true.
everybody else, but
It's
not
true,
me.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's how God feels about me. I'm loved. He loves me unconditionally. I'm, beautiful. I'm wonderfully made. I'm made in his image.
Mhm.
It's like, I think, me made in his image? No,
Mhm.
you know, I make mistakes. I
Yeah.
say things I shouldn't,
Yeah.
I think things I shouldn't.
Yep.
So I think it's important to have yourself around other women
Yeah.
that can kind of tattle on themselves a little bit. Um, my pastor, his wife, she's really great about, not necessarily giving us the whole story, but letting us know, like, I think things sometimes about people I shouldn't. And,
Yeah.
I have to go to God and say, God, replace my thought process with
Uh,
this is a child, this is your child, and you love them.
mm,
Shift my perspective.
help me to see them like you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important to have people that, can be transparent
Mhm.
so that you don't feel like you're over here missing the mark.
Yes. Well, because a lot of us hide behind this like fake perfectionism that we want people to think about ourselves.
Right.
And so even, I mean, you even see people who are like, um, you think that their life is perfect on the outside, and you're like, oh man, I want their marriage or I want their, their life situation. Like I wish it was more like that. And then when
Yeah.
you actually hear what's really going on, and you're like, wow, like I actually don't want that. Or it's so much like I would have never thought that they were walking through that because we put on this like guard where we try to act like we're perfect. And then when the people are around them, then they act like they're perfect because they don't want that perfect person to judge
Yeah.
them. And so it just becomes like we're all just wearing this mask and never being true of like who we are. And we all need each other. Like I need other women to come to me, like you said, and say, like, I'm really struggling with this. Like, have you ever struggled with this? And I could be
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, I have too. Like, let's walk through this journey together. Or like, what did you do now that you're on the other side of this? Like, how did you get on the other side of that?
Yeah.
Because we're not meant to like walk through these things alone. And we're going to always walk through them no matter what. But
Yeah.
like, we need each other to help us walk through those. But if we're hiding behind lies and, not being transparent, then we're not doing anybody any justice, not each other and not ourselves at all. And then God can't use our testimony.
It's
Like,
so
God can't
true.
use our brokenness to bless other people.
Yeah. I always thought testimony was like at the end, like
Yeah.
you show your test score and it's
Yeah.
like, here's my
The
testimony.
final
But
grade. Yeah.
that's really not how it is. I mean, testimony should be, I'm sharing with you how I'm struggling, and then I'm sharing with you what God is doing in my heart, in my life
Yeah.
as I'm walking this out.
Yeah.
Um, we talked about counseling and how powerful it can be. I remember walking into the counselor's office and saying, I don't want to talk about my abandonment issues,
Yeah.
dad leaving at 3. I know I have abandonment issues.
Yeah.
What I really need from you is to know what a healthy response looks like, and I wish that we had that mentorship in the church, that we had
Yeah.
women we could go to and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. What's a healthy response? And I spent a couple of years with this counselor and I would say, this is the situation, you know, tell me what does a healthy response sound like? Give me some ideas because, you would never, I mean, we both have homeschooled our children. And even if you don't homeschool your children, they don't go off to kindergarten with the expectation that they already have to know how to write their
Yeah.
name.
Mhm.
You teach them the letters, you teach them to trace the letters, and then eventually they move from tracing the letters to writing their
Yeah.
name on their own. And it's the same thing. We need that same thing from other women. What does healthy look like?
Yeah.
What does I'm enough look like? What does that look like to you? Can you share with me like a time when you didn't feel
Yeah.
like enough and then how you got to the other side of it?
Yeah.
You need somebody to model that.
Yeah. Like, what tools did you use? What resources did you have? Who did you
Yeah.
reach out to when you weren't feeling that way? What scripture did you stand on? All of those things are things that we need to hear from other people.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when you're in it, it's so hard to even like reach up for help. Like, just like you're drowning in it,
Yeah.
right? Like when you're feeling so unworthy and so broken, it's hard to even ask for help for one because you don't want to burden other people. It's hard to admit that you're going through it.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you don't even have the strength to be like, hey, this is what I'm going through, like to even ask. And so having other people tell you, like, this is what I did when I went through that, when you start to feel that way, you're like, oh, I remember so and so telling me that when she began to feel this way, she went to this scripture,
Yeah.
or she would say these things over herself, or she would pray this prayer to God. Like, we need that. And if that person hadn't have shared that or like walked through that, then we
Yeah.
wouldn't have the tools that we need.
Yeah. So true.
Do you have like a certain thing that you do, like scripture that you speak over yourself or prayer that you say or anything
So
like that?
I'm one of those people that I like to move.
Mhm.
So when I first started this journey of like really pressing into the Lord,
Yeah.
sitting still was really hard for me.
Mhm.
And I've gotten better at that. But going on a walk and having a
Yeah.
prayer walk
Mhm.
and connecting with nature and all that God has created
Mhm.
has been really powerful for me. Listening to worship.
Yeah.
But the one verse, and I never can remember what book of the Bible it's in, but it's that verse that says, I know the plans that I have for you.
Mhm.
They're good. Um, I think I just always go back to that,
Yeah.
whatever I'm going through,
His
just to
promise.
know that He has a plan for my life and that it's good, it's meaningful,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
that's something that I come back to a lot.
Yeah, I was just talking to a friend and we were talking about that, how like worship looks different to everybody and like how we hear from God. Like, it's everyone, we always think like we have to check these boxes of what a relationship with God looks like or how to get God to answer us.
Yeah.
But it is so different for all of us. Like, for her, it was like her quiet time with the Lord. And, for some people, it's like when they're reading scripture, God will highlight scriptures and he speaks that way. Or
Yeah.
for like my daughter, it's like worship. That's where she connects with God the most, is when she's worshiping. And it's just different for all of us. But I think just even having the tools of like what that could look like is so great. But for all of us, it's going to be different. And it's okay to know that like your walk might look different than mine.
Yeah.
And it because you might do more or do it differently, that doesn't like change how God feels about what I'm doing and
Right.
how I'm leaning into him.
Yeah, it's powerful that women hear that it doesn't have to look like somebody else's
Yes.
journey.
Yep.
Their relationship with God can be whatever they want it to be and
Yeah.
whatever they create with the Lord. It's like this beautiful canvas and it's the two of you, yourself and the Lord
Mhm.
painting this picture of what it looks like. And not only does it not look the same, but it won't look the same year to year. You
Yeah.
know, I walked through a season the last couple of years where, it was a lot of silence. There was a lot of silence. And if I'm being honest, I was very frustrated.
Yep.
And I'd have to say I did a lot of soul searching, like even in those moments, like,
Yeah.
am I not enough that you're being
Yeah.
silent?
Yeah. Did I do something so wrong to make you hate
Yeah.
me?
And I kept thinking, and I
Yeah.
kept saying this to, some women that are just so, important in my life that I can be transparent with. I'd say to them, I'm just tired of going through the motions,
Yeah.
feeling like I'm doing what I need to do to connect with God and not really feeling a connection. And I really had to get to the place where I stopped relying on my feelings. And I started saying, I know you're here, God, and I know that you're working, and I'm going to trust that you're
Mhm.
doing what's best for me.
Yeah.
Because it was a long season of silence. And I kept thinking, is it me? Am I not doing something that I should be?
Mhm.
And it was, I was right where I needed to be because I needed to stretch my trust in the
Yeah.
Lord
Yeah.
that no matter, what the situation looked like, He was working for my good. And
And are you
I
gonna
I
believe
didn't
that?
believe that,
Yeah.
and we've talked about that it's a journey, and I'm so grateful to be on the other side of that because it was a miserable place to be,
Mhm.
feeling like, I constantly would go back to that verse. But if I was being honest, I didn't feel like the plans that he had for me were good.
Yeah.
And I had to stop relying on how I felt and what the situations looked like and what the outcomes were. And I just had to wholeheartedly choose to believe.
Yeah. And trust him.
Yes.
Mm. See how, like, we were just talking about how, like, sharing your testimony, even sharing and being vulnerable can do something for somebody else, but that's the season that I was in. Just, like, barely walking out of was where, my mom died, I got sick, I've been dealing with all these health issues,
Yeah.
and I used to hear God very clearly. Like, I mean, I'd have visions, like, I would feel, like, just so different. And so for, like, yeah, the last 2 years of me walking through all of those things, I felt like God was the farthest away from me he had ever been. And I have been at that place where I'm like, "Are you even real? You or you just don't love me? What did I do so wrong?" Because I'm really trying to live right. I go to church, I
Yeah.
pray, I'm faithful to my husband, like, I'm trying to live to please you in such a way. I'm, like, reading, I'm trying to pray, I'm trying to do these things, but, like, where are you? I don't hear you. I'm asking for you to answer all of these things, and then I started to feel like not enough, like, it's me. It's something he just doesn't like me, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I'm, like, just coming out of that because and I got to the same place where it was like, he was asking me, like, "Are you going to trust me even when you don't feel me like you used to?
Yeah.
Like, are you still gonna trust that I'm good and I'm here and what I'm doing is for a reason, that my silence isn't necessarily a bad thing,
Yeah.
but maybe I'm trying to grow something in you and prepare you for something that you need this preparation for."
Yeah.
And it's hard to believe that when you're going through that because the first thought was, "I'm not enough." Like, that's exactly what it was. Like, I'm not what other people are, and God just doesn't care that much about me, so he's not listening to my.
Yeah.
And so even hearing that you're on the other side of that and you sharing that even gave me the encouragement. And if you wouldn't have been vulnerable and shared that, like, that's what's so beautiful about sharing, like you said, like, the little pieces of our testimony that never change. We always have
Yeah.
a different testimony, and just that little part of your testimony, definitely encouraged me because 'cause I'm like, I heard from God clearly last week where he just sent this, like, little love note to me, and I was like, "Okay, God." Like, it just gave me the hope that I needed.
Yeah.
But man, the last 2 years has been I'd say 2.5 years has been the roughest 2.5 years of my life. And I felt the same way, and
Yeah.
it is hard, but
It's interesting that I don't know if you picked up on both of us saying similar things that we felt like we needed to do
yes.
something.
Yeah.
And I think that God really wants us to realize that there isn't anything that we
No.
can do
Mm-mm.
to change the season of life that we're in.
Yeah.
You know, I love the scripture that talks about there's a time and a season for everything
Yeah.
because it is true. And we have seasons that are in the natural, but we also have spiritual
Yeah.
seasons, and if you try to hurry up what season you're in,
Yeah. You're gonna miss it.
we're going to miss it. Or, like we don't have modern day farmers like we used to, but, you know, the seasons are meant, there's purpose in them.
Mhm.
And if it's winter and we're meant to hunker down
Yeah.
and spend a lot of quiet time with the Lord, and that's the season we're in, and we try to rush through it, we might miss planting season.
Yeah.
We might miss harvest season.
Mhm.
And I think it's important that we recognize it's, we don't have to do anything to feel the love that God has
Yeah.
for us. He wants to love on us, He wants to
Mhm.
bless us.
Mhm.
And I think, like we talked about, how we view love because of our parents, we have an expectation
Mhm.
of what it should look like.
Yeah.
And it's hard for us to let go of that
Mhm.
and say, okay, God, what do you want this season to look like? I'm open.
Yeah.
There's a song that I just heard recently, and the gal is talking about her thought process of what it needs to look like and how she wants God to basically take her thought process and erase it
Mm.
and show up how He is,
Yeah.
not how she expects Him
Yep.
to show up.
Yep.
And hearing that song for the first time, that was so powerful because it really gave me the mindset shift of, am I expecting God to show up and do things that,
Mhm.
He doesn't necessarily want to do
Yeah.
or He's not going to do?
Yeah.
I've been praying for my ex-husband that he would come to know the Lord in a real powerful and tangible way. And I really have had to let go
Mhm.
of the when and how and all of that. Um, and just trust that, He's going to do it in His time and
Yeah.
in His way.
Well, it's even possible, I feel like, that because we're focusing on the way God used to show up for us and how we used to hear God talk to us, that we're actually missing out on Him actually talking to us
Yeah.
because we're so focused on this area that we're not looking over here. And
Yeah.
we're like, okay, well, He's not speaking because I'm used to Him speaking this way, but He really is speaking. It's just in a different way. But we're too focused, hyper focused on how we think it should look that we miss what He's actually doing.
Yeah.
And I think that's the season I was in because I look back and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, you were talking." And this season has caused me to have a different dependency on him than I've ever had
Yeah.
because he was the only one that was gonna get me through it all. The only one that would help me sleep at night, that would calm my anxiety, the panic attacks, all the things I was going through, and the grief of my mom, all the things. It
Yeah.
was only him that was gonna be able to do it. I could not do it on my own. But if I wasn't walking through that season where I constantly was just pressing into him, I'm like, Lord, I need you, I need you, I need you, I need you, I need you. To where when like I had to have a dependence on him. And I knew that it was only him. But I was looking for him to show up in a different way that I missed in those moments, all the ways he was there and showing up. And now that I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, you were there the whole time.
Yeah.
I just missed it
Yeah.
because I was leaning into the wrong thing. Instead of just being quiet, like, okay, like you said, like, Lord, show up how you want to.
Yeah.
Speak to me how you want to. Like, show me you're here however you want to, not how I'm expecting you to, because that's how you've done it in the past.
Yeah. You talk about realizing that it's only God that's going to
Yeah.
get you through those situations. And I think when we don't feel like enough, we try to look outside of
Yeah.
ourselves and find ways to fix it or
Mhm.
feel better in whatever season it is that we're walking through. And God's like, I'm right here
Yeah.
on the throne.
Yep.
I can give you everything that you want and need,
Yep.
but yet you're looking everywhere
Yeah.
else.
And looking for validation everywhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the girls and I talked about this a lot is that like everything else's foundation that we put our identity on, it's shaking all the time and it's changing and it's
Yeah.
shifting. So it's never going to be secure. So you're never going to truly have identity.
Yeah.
Like, your identity is never going to stay constant, and you're always gonna be shifting and trying to change it, and so it's gonna leave this, like, emptiness, and you're gonna never feel complete because you're holding it on the wrong foundation.
Yeah. It's so
Where
true.
God's foundation is, like, an unshakable foundation, and if we, like, really instill, like, the identity of, like, who He says we are, then it's when things happen, it's not gonna shake. I mean, we might feel a little bit, but, like, it's not gonna be such a shifting foundation that we're like, we lose who we are completely
Yeah.
or allow other things to replace that as easily.
Yeah. It's interesting when you start dissecting what your security is based on,
Yeah,
what your foundation is.
yeah.
And you look at the fact that, many of us look at careers,
Mhm,
money,
mhm.
position, and all that really means nothing,
Yeah,
you know?
and you're only enough if you've achieved those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, mhm. That's good. Is there anything that you would, like, share with anybody who is struggling with feeling like they're enough or going through a battle and they need to know that they are gonna be victorious in this battle because he's already won?
Well, we were talking earlier and I was telling you about the story about Gideon and an angel came to him to give him instructions on what God wanted him to do. And the angel told him that he was a mighty warrior. And I think many times we don't feel like we are who God says we are.
Mhm.
And I think that it's just really powerful to recognize that your feelings don't determine your
Yeah,
worth.
yeah,
You know, I, I, I jokingly tell the kids all the time, I feel like a fat whale. We go through, us women go through our menstrual cycles and we
yep,
hold a lot of water and we don't always feel great about ourselves. But our feelings lie.
yeah,
They do. They
yes,
lie. Though that person doesn't like me. Well, that's a lie. They were
yeah,
probably having an off day.
yes,
So I think really the most powerful thing is, not relying on how we feel. Um, don't let your feelings dictate a decision or a response.
yeah,
That's if I've grown in any area of my life, I've recognized that if I'm not feeling good, um, that I don't respond or I don't
yeah,
make a decision until I'm feeling different about myself. And I feel like I have got a good head on my shoulders and I've really thought about, the situation in its entirety, not
mhm,
just how I felt in the moment.
yeah,
Because it's so easy for us to take like a little snapshot of a situation
mhm,
and not look at the big picture.
mhm, mm, that's really good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Thanks for
sharing today.
thanks for having me
Yeah,
on.
so nice having you on and
Yeah.
getting to catch up and just for sharing your heart and your wisdom and yeah, and she has a book or a devotional that just came out if you want to share
Oh,
about that.
yeah. It's called Declarations of Wisdom, and it's a daily decree to read over your kids each day of the month, and it's based off the Proverbs. I love reading the Psalms and Proverbs, so much wisdom, and you can purchase it on Amazon. The other powerful thing is it has a decree for mothers and fathers.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's something to speak over yourself, you know?
Which all ties into identity, right? Because if you're speaking those truths and declaring those things over your children, you're helping them instill their identity and
Yeah,
who they are.
exactly.
So that's incredible.
It's a powerful tool to speak life
Yeah.
over your kids
And over yourself
and over yourself.
and over each other.
I thought I was writing the book to change my kids and their behavior, and
Yeah.
God showed me it was really to change me and my heart and my
Oh,
perspective of who He is.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, thank you again.
Yeah.
I appreciate you.
I love what you're doing for women.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next time.